Not all wells draw water, some draw ruin. The snow had not ceased. It fell like a benediction from a merciless god, blanketing Hawksmere in white silence while rot festered beneath. The living clung to warmth as the dead whispered in the wind, and even the prayers froze before reaching heaven. I, Lady Aurelia Ravenshade, return to this place where faith and fear have become indistinguishable, where the line between devotion and damnation blurs like ink bleeding across parchment. The keep trembles, not from storm or steel, but from within. The poison seeps through cracks unseen, a widow's accusation, a priest's deceit, a nun's secret turned weapon. Hawksmere's well of hope has been tainted, and every soul that drinks from it risks madness. Tonight, truth itself becomes the most dangerous thirst of all.
Chapter 21, The Poisoned Well. Young Will's sobs echoed in the frozen courtyard, a raw counterpoint to the howling wind that seemed to mock Hawksmere's despair. Gareth, Jory, Mick. The names hung in the frigid air, unspoken epitaphs carved by Roland's greed and the indifferent savagery of winter. The ravine had claimed them, swallowing strong men as easily as the mine collapse had weeks before. The meager hope brought from Thorn's Hollow was now buried under tons of snow and grief. Alianor stood immobile on the battlement, the cold seeping past wool and leather, deep into her bones. Below, Tom and others half carried the traumatized Will towards the infirmary. Eamon's hand clamped onto her arm, his grip surprisingly strong, despite his pallor and the pain etched around his eyes. "Don't," he rasped, his voice raw. "Don't let them see it break you." "Not now." She turned, meeting his gaze. The fury in his gray eyes was a spark against the encroaching void. "3 more, Eamon," she whispered, the words barely audible over the wind. "For firewood." "For survival," he corrected fiercely. Gareth knew the risk. They all did. Roland forced this gamble upon us all when he bled the mine dry and ignored the weeping rock. This death is his, just as much as those in the pit. He leaned heavily on his staff, his breath pluming. "We mourn later. Now we hold the line." He was right. The line was fraying visibly. Villagers clustered in the deepening twilight, drawn by the commotion, their faces reflecting Will's terror and Alara's bottomless grief. Whispers rose like specters. "Cursed! Sister Margery was right. God has turned his face. Where is Furness? Where is Sir Jocelyn?" The seeds of doubt sown by Cuthbert and Margery were germinating in the fertile ground of fresh loss and gnawing hunger. Alianor descended the steps, Eamon limping beside her. She walked towards the gathered crowd, her back straight, projecting a calm she didn't feel. "Hear me." Her voice, sharp as cracked ice, cut through the murmurs. Gareth, Jory, Mick. They went, seeking life for Hawksmere. The land betrayed them, as it has betrayed us all this bitter season. We mourn their courage. We honor their sacrifice. She paused, letting the weight of their names settle. But despair is Roland's victory. It is what he, and those who whisper his poison in the shadows, want. They want us broken. They want us to surrender to the cold and the dark. She swept her gaze across the huddled figures, meeting frightened eyes. "Will you give it to them? Or will you stand with me? Will you fight for the dawn, however far off it seems?" Silence. Then, Tom's voice, gravelly and resolute, rose from near the infirmary door. "I stand, milady." A beat, then another voice, hesitant but clear. "I." Another. Soon, a low murmur of assent rippled through the crowd, fragile but present. Alara remained hunched, silent, a monument to grief, but the tide of outright panic receded, banked for the moment by Alianor's defiance. "Then to work," Alianor commanded. "Double the watch on the walls. The cold is enemy enough without carelessness. Conserve every ember. Bess, Alara, see to Will. Warm him, calm him. Father Clement, prayers in the hall for the lost, and for strength. She turned to Tom. With me. Inside the marginally less frigid great hall, Tom's face was grim. Will babbled about the ground just vanishing. A shelf of snow over the ravine edge. They never had a chance. The hollow cache is unreachable now, Alianor stated, the finality heavy, and the furnace cart is a phantom. We are down to the oats, the salt, the last of the venison, and dwindling wood. Days, Tom. Barely days. Aye, Tom agreed, and that snake Cuthbert still coiled in his room, watching, waiting for us to crack. He spat. Margery, too. Her cell's quiet, but her poison's working through Alara and others. Margery, Alianor said, a cold purpose crystallizing within her. She's our key. She knows Roland's secrets, Furness's dealings, perhaps even Sir Jocelyn's true intentions. We need her testimony, not just whispered admissions to me, but sworn words the sheriff cannot ignore, words that break Roland's allies. Tom frowned. How? Threaten her? She feeds on fear. Offer her comfort? She'd spit in your hand. We offer her what she desires most, Alianor said, her eyes glinting in the firelight. Salvation, or the illusion of it. We make her believe Furness is her only escape, and that we control the path to it. She outlined her plan quickly, coldly. It involved isolation, manipulation, and the calculated use of Cuthbert's presence. Tom listened, his initial skepticism giving way to grudging admiration for its ruthless pragmatism. It's a gamble, milady, a dangerous one. Everything is a gamble now, Tom, Alianor replied. Prepare the small storeroom next to the chapel. Damp, dark, no fire. Move her there tonight, quietly. Tell her it's for her safety, that tempers are high after Will's return. Let her stew in the cold and the dark, hearing the wind howl. Then, tomorrow, we begin. The night was interminable. The cold deepened, seeping into the very stones of the keep. Alianor paced the solar, unable to rest, listening to the mournful wind and the occasional creak of the overburdened roof. Eamon slept fitfully by the hearth, his face drawn with pain and shared worry. Downstairs, the hall was hushed, filled with the low murmur of prayers and the restless sleep of the cold and hungry. Will's account of the ravine disaster had cast a pall thicker than the snow. Dawn brought no sunrise, only a grudging lightening of the gray, suffocating veil. The snow still fell, relentless. After a sparse breakfast of thin oat gruel, the precious grains ebbing away, Alianor set her plan in motion. She visited Brother Cuthbert first. He received her in his small chamber, a semblance of pious concern back on his face, though his eyes held a watchful calculation. Lady Alianor, a grievous night, more souls lost to the harshness. Truly, the Lord tests Hawksmere. He tests all, brother, Alianor replied neutrally. I come regarding Sister Margery. Her confinement near the hall, it's become untenable. The grief over yesterday's loss, it runs hot. Fools speak of vengeance, blaming her whispers for tempting fate. For her own safety, I've moved her to a more secure location, near the chapel. Cuthbert's eyes widened slightly. Near the chapel? But that storeroom? It's little better than a cell. Damp. Cold. Safer than a mob's justice, brother, Alianor cut in, her voice hardening. Would you have Furness learn we let a nun under their care be torn apart by frightened peasants? How would that reflect on your abbot's promised succor? She let the implication hang. She is alive. Unharmed. For now. Her continued safety depends on the swift arrival of that grain cart and on her cooperation. Cooperation? Cuthbert echoed, wary. The sheriff will require her testimony regarding Sir Roland. Detailed testimony. Furness Abbey, I'm sure, wishes her words to reflect the truth of her spiritual confusion rather than any act of malice. Alianor met his gaze squarely. Ensure she understands that. Her comfort, perhaps even her return to Furness, hinges on providing a statement that satisfies the sheriff's need for justice without unduly implicating the Abbey's oversight. A delicate balance, brother. One I trust you can help her find. She was offering Cuthbert a way to control the narrative, to protect the Abbey's reputation, dangling Margery's well-being and potential return as the carrot, and the unspoken threat of mob violence as the stick. Cuthbert absorbed this, his mind working behind his pious mask. Controlling Margery's testimony was valuable. Protecting the Abbey was paramount. I will speak with her, offer spiritual counsel in this difficult time. See that you do, brother, Alianor said, rising. Today, the cold in that storeroom bites deep, and fear can twist the tongue. She left him, knowing the hook was set. Cuthbert would go to Margery, not with comfort, but with instructions veiled as guidance, reinforcing the idea that her fate rested on pleasing Furness. Next, Alianor went to the new cell. It was indeed a grim place, a small, windowless stone room adjoining the chapel sacristy, used for storing old vestments and parish records. It smelled of damp stone, mildew, and candle wax. Margery sat huddled on a pile of musty sacks, her breath misting in the frigid air. She looked smaller, older, the calculating serenity replaced by a hunted fear. The howl of the wind seemed louder here, more personal. "Comfortable, sister?" Alianor asked, her voice devoid of warmth. She stood just inside the door, a guard visible in the passage behind her. Margery's head snapped up. This is inhuman. I am a bride of Christ. You are a prisoner accused of conspiracy and incitement, Alianor stated flatly. Your comfort is a luxury. Hawksmere cannot afford its own children, let alone its enemies. You are alive. That is the only concession the current temper allows. She saw the fear deepen in Margery's eyes at the mention of temper. Brother Cuthbert will visit you shortly. He brings word from Furness. Consider carefully what you say to him. Your future hinges on it. Furness, Margery whispered, a flicker of desperate hope igniting. The Abbot? The Abbot is concerned, Alianor said, twisting the truth. Concerned that your enthusiasm for Sir Roland's cause may have led you into error. Errors that could reflect poorly on the Abbey if voiced carelessly before the sheriff. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a chilling murmur. Cuthbert will advise you. Listen well. Your testimony needs to satisfy the sheriff's requirements without dragging Furness's name through the mire of Roland's crimes. Do that. Alianor leaned in slightly, and perhaps Furness will intercede. Perhaps this cell is temporary. Fail. She straightened, letting the word hang in the icy air. Well, you hear the wind, sister. You hear the anger. The well of mercy in Hawksmere has frozen over. She turned and left, locking the heavy door behind her, leaving Margery alone with the cold, the howling wind, and the terrifying promise of Cuthbert's visit. Alianor retreated to the solar. Eamon was awake, attempting to stretch his bruised ribs. Well? The trap is baited, Alianor said, sinking into a chair, suddenly exhausted. Cuthbert will pressure her to tailor her testimony to protect Furness. He'll make her believe cooperation is her ticket back. But the fear, the isolation, the cold, it will fester. She's proud, used to manipulating others, being manipulated, being treated like a liability. It will grate. And when she realizes Cuthbert offers no real protection, only more servitude, Eamon asked. Then she might look for a better deal, Alianor replied grimly. One where she controls the narrative, one that truly frees her from Roland's shadow and Cuthbert's leash. We need to be ready to offer it. But first, we need her desperate. We need her to see us as the lesser evil. The day crawled past, marked by the relentless snow and the oppressive waiting. Bess reported Margery refused her meager noon meal. Tom noted Cuthbert spent nearly an hour in the cell, his expression unreadable when he emerged, heading straight for his own quarters. The tension within the keep was palpable, a coiled spring ready to snap. The remaining oats were carefully measured out. The venison was gone. Only the salt and the dwindling wood offered any semblance of security. Late in the afternoon, as the gray light began to fail again, a commotion arose at the gate. Not the hoped-for Furness cart. A single rider, pushing a lathered horse through the drifts, clad in the familiar livery of Sheriff de Fournival. Alianor and Aemon reached the courtyard as the rider, a young, hard-faced deputy, dismounted stiffly. He pulled a sealed parchment from his saddlebag, handing it to Alianor without preamble. From the sheriff, milady. Urgent. She broke the seal, her frozen fingers fumbling. Aemon held a torch close as she read de Furnival's precise, grim script. Lady Alianor, Sir Roland is secure at Chesterfield, but the legal morass deepens. His cousin, Sir Jocelyn de Mowbray, has petitioned the justiciar, questioning the validity of the arrest and the charges, citing Edmund's incapacity and your precarious authority. He demands Roland be released into his custody pending trial. Furness Abbey has added its voice, expressing grave concern for Roland's spiritual welfare and the disorder at Hawksmere, subtly supporting Sir Jocelyn's claims. Brother Cuthbert's reports paint a dire picture of mismanagement and instability. This is a dangerous development. Sir Jocelyn wields significant influence. The justiciar is under pressure. I have countered with the depositions and the evidence of the ring, but the mine collapse and Edmund's state are complicating factors. We need more. We need irrefutable proof of Roland's guilt beyond the recent events, evidence of long-standing malice and conspiracy. The testimony of Sister Margery is now critical. Obtain a formal, sworn statement from her, detailing everything she knows of Roland's actions, especially regarding Sir Godfrey and the original theft against Aemon Thorne. Do not delay. Send it with the next rider you can dispatch through this cursed snow. Hold firm, Lady Alianor. The storm you face at Hawksmere is mirrored here. Justice hangs by a thread. De Furnival. Alianor lowered the parchment, the words burning like ice against her skin. Roland's allies were moving, leveraging Cuthbert's lies and Hawksmere's visible desperation. Sir Jocelyn wasn't just sending men. He was trying to dismantle the case entirely. Margery's testimony wasn't just desirable. It was essential. And de Furnival had no idea the viper they needed to extract it from was currently shivering in a dark cell, caught between Cuthbert's manipulation and Alianor's trap. She looked at Aemon, his face grim in the torchlight. It seems, she said, her voice low and dangerous, our guest in the chapel storeroom holds more than just poison. She holds the key to the cage they're trying to build around us. The sheriff's urgent plea merged with her own desperate strategy. The time for subtlety was over. The poisoned well had to be tapped, no matter how toxic the waters. They needed Margery to sing, and sing damningly, before Sir Jocelyn's influence could set Roland free. The blizzard outside mirrored the political storm closing in, and the crumbling walls of Hawksmere felt thinner than ever.
The poisoned well runs deepest where faith once flowed pure. The rider's arrival was not salvation, but omen. Within his message, the walls of Hawksmere began to crumble, not from siege engines or snow, but from the weight of deceit. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one coiling in the heart of Lady Alianor, who now holds Hawksmere's fate in trembling hands. Sister Margery, the serpent cloaked in holy cloth, sits in her frozen cell whispering prayers to a God who may no longer listen. Cuthbert weaves his lies with the care of a spider mending its web. And above it all, Alianor, bleeding, unbowed, plots salvation in the only currency left, truth bought with fear. I have seen kingdoms fall for less than a single woman's vow. The poisoned well has been tapped. What spills next will not be water nor mercy, but reckoning. For when faith rots, only the brave dare drink.